Well, good the fuck morning to you. Yeah, I know it's like 11:15 in the morning. You might be wondering why the meter's running. A car show is standing under a wing. Well, that's because, as a gearhead, I appreciate everything that goes loud and fast and makes a really big bang. Well, today we're out here at the Goodyear Airport, the Commemorative Air Force World War II Flying Museums. They have a B-24, B-17, a B-25. What was the other one?
P-51 Mustang.
P-51 Mustang. We're out here having a little fun today. I'm out here with Grand Moff, go fuck yourself. And he's going to take over talking about some of these aircraft because as much as I know, they make a very loud noise, they go very fast, and they blow the fuck out of shit. He's the expert on this kind of stuff. We will be moving from aircraft to aircraft, so at times we may go quiet. We don't want to disturb anybody else's, treatment of these planes. We have to be very respectful because there are World War II veterans out here. So today won't have as many F-bombs as normal. But anyway, Grand Moff, go fuck yourself. Take it away.
Really?
So what are we looking at? This is witchcraft, a B-24 what?
Consolidated Liberator. Consolidated was the aircraft company that built them. This one here was actually licensed built by the Ford Motor Company. So this is a consolidated aircraft built by Ford, powered by engines built by GM.
So what you're telling me is we've got a Ford-built aircraft with GM engines.
Yes.
So much like every dragster on the track nowadays.
Yes.
Okay.
They came up with the original idea here.
So how many engines does this one have?
This has 4 twin Wasp engines.
Twin Wasps. How much horsepower does one of these things crank?
About 1,400.
1,400 horses a piece, and it has 4 of them.
Correct.
So that's 5,600 horsepower. And these engines are
14 cylinders each.
14-cylinder radial. Guys, could you imagine trying to do the firing order on that? And they are supercharged and turbocharged, are they not?
Yes. The B-24 Liberator was the most produced American bomber of World War II with over 24,000 of them built. More of them were built than the famous B-17. They were used in the Pacific and in Europe. And even the Germans used a few of these. They used about half a dozen of them of their own.
Hey guys, I got your straight pipe for you. Right into your turbo. Put that in your Honda, if it'll fit. And this aircraft was built when? what?
This is a 1944 built aircraft.
So we have a 1944 aircraft with active exhausts, something they didn't put on cars for another 60 years. So you were telling me something very interesting about the bomber doors.
Oh, yeah.
The roll-up doors. The B-24 had roll-up doors as opposed to the actual clamshell doors on a B-17.
Yeah. B-24 carried more bombs. It had twin bomb bays. These bomb bay doors roll up flush with the fuselage. Unlike the B-17, which has clamshell doors, the German gunners could not see when these bomb bays would open. So when these would roll up, they didn't know they had started their bombing run. When the 17 opens its doors, not only does it cause drag and slow the bombers down, but the Germans knew they had committed to the bombing run and would put all their flak guns in one spot, making the 17 an easier target than the 24 was. The 24 carried double bomb bays and could carry up to 2 tons of bombs depending on the mission run.
Yeah.
So it could fly further, it could fly faster. It just could not fly higher than the 17, and it didn't have as good a PR agent as Boeing did.
So how much armament can this thing carry as far as payload?
Payload? Its maximum bomb load was 4,000 pounds, but you weren't flying very far. You were maybe going 400 miles out, 400 miles back. So if you wanted to go all the way to Berlin, you carried about 500 pounds of bombs. If you were just going across the channel, load her up until the wheels squat.
Okay. And as far as turrets, we have a top-mounted turret on this one up there.
Which was built by Martin.
We have a front turret over there.
That's a consolidated nose turret.
We've got a tail turret, and we've got 2 50 cals, one on either side.
We also have, you can't see it because it's retracted right now, but right here you will find a ball turret just like the ones on B-17s. This is where the phrase balls out comes from. Because once these planes were in formation, the air group commander would give orders to drop the ball or balls out, and the turret would drop, and they would fly off and do their mission. It's retracted so the aircraft has enough ground clearance when it lands and takes off. It's not dragging itself on the ground.
Now, you told me earlier that the World War II ball ace, and that tiny little ball, mind you, stood 6'4".
Yes.
How much Crisco was involved in getting him into that turret?
About as much as you find in an order of fries.
Jesus.
The different gun stations weren't assigned to people. They were just who wants to be where. Generally, usually the shortest guy got the ball turret, just on basic physics. But all these turrets are either hydraulic or electrically operated.
We've got cut here for rescue.
Yep.
I'm assuming that's to rescue the guy out the back, right?
Yep. When these turrets needed to be swapped out, they could actually be, there was 4 disconnect points that could actually hoist the whole thing out and just put in a brand new one, which was generally the most maintenance was done on that, was to have the guns removed, clean the guns, put them back in. But if the turret was damaged or questionable in any way, they would just swap the entire turret.
Now that says 780 BS 465 BG.
Okay. 465th Bomb Group, 780th Bomb Squadron.
Nice. Now, the B24 was nicknamed the Liberator. Why was it called the Ugly Bastard?
Because it is one. It was also known as the crate that the B-17s were delivered in. They have
the crate that the B-17 was delivered in. I mean, you never realize the size difference until you have them parked right next to each other. The B-17 is actually
smaller,
a lot smaller than the B-24.
B-17 was the pretty one. This always got the, the bad comments from everybody.
Yeah, got the bad rap, but it didn't deserve it.
Exactly.
Yeah, the 17 was a private venture by Boeing, originally known as a Model 299. That came out in the 30s. This was designed after the 17. If you notice, the 17 has a nice, big, huge, high-lift wing. This skinny wing used on the consolidated aircraft is known as a Davis wing. It's very high capacity, it could take off well, but the downside of it is, well, there wasn't much to it, so if it took a hit, have a nice day.
Let's move over to the B-17 real quick. This is B-17-909. That's the airplane's name.
You see, it got its name from the last 3 digits of its serial number.
Yeah.
This is a mid-war, late 1944 B-17G. The characteristics of a B-17G is the famous chin turret, a product from the YB-40 escort bomber that was a failure. It was a failure because they tried turning one of these into a flying battleship. Didn't work too well because it was too slow to stay with the bomber formations, but they found the nose turret worked well. On early World War II bombers, the nose was very vulnerable. So late in the war, they fitted them with nose turrets like this one here and that one over there to help give them some defense against the Germans and the Japanese.
Now, are these the same 1,400 horsepower engines that the B-24 has?
They are similar versions of it. They're just slightly different modifications for the engine mount styles.
Okay. Now, the B-17 had somewhat the same armament. It had the chin turret, it had the ball turret, it had the 250 cals, the tail turret, and then it's got the dome turret too.
Yep. You can also see right there, you see the radio aerials coming off the tail into the radio compartment. The radio operator would sometimes have his own 50 cal sticking up out of that as well. And before they had chin turrets, early B-17s like B-17Es and Fs, the crews would figure out their own ways to put guns in the nose with mixed success.
Why do I see a pissed off pilot just thrusting a 9mm 1911 out the front end?
There's urban legends of it happening. Now this aircraft is not actually fitted with them, it's painted with simulations, but the black markings on here are supposed to be rubber de-icing boots. If ice started building up on the aircraft, the idea was that they could inflate the boots, it would inflate and break the ice loose so it wouldn't affect lift. But a lot of these were removed in combat because they found when they get damaged and whatnot, you have stuff flying around, you get wrapped in controls. There was
fun.
a false rumor for a while that they thought that these things would catch fire, but that was proven to be false. These here are just GoPro camera mounts, are not actual parts of the aircraft.
And this is this is all part of the Commemorative Air Force Museum.
Collins Aircraft Foundation. Same mission, different group.
Oh, same mission, different group. And they fly all over the country, right?
Yep. This aircraft is fitted with what they call the Stinger turret. This is the standard production turret. You'll see, if you ever seen Sentimental Journey, it has a ball turret style turret, and it's called the Cheyenne because Cheyenne, Wyoming, operated by United Airlines, but actually they would cut this all out and build a whole new assembly for these aircraft late in the war. They get better visibility for the gunner. These guns had better field of fire because these only got very limited. Because this poor guy here also was sitting on a bicycle seat kneeling for 8 to 12 hours. So those guys who don't like getting their legs cramped, I don't want to hear it anymore.
And now this plane has a tail light.
Yes. These were formation bombing lights, okay? Now, if this aircraft was operating at nighttime and they lost radio contact with the bomb group, the lead bomb plane, because you see all the formations, everybody's dropping bombs and whatnot. Only one plane was ever, whoever lead plane was the one that said, okay, now everybody drop. They didn't just bomb on their own. You had to wait for the lead plane to drop its bombs. When it dropped, you dropped. But if they lost radio communications and apparently you were blind in the dark, not seeing the bombs drop, red light would mean stand by, green light means drop the bombs.
Okay.
They're not brake lights. Aircraft do not have brake lights.
Why do I just suddenly see a traffic jam in my head in the air?
Oh, you're flying 1,000 planes in the air. Imagine what it must look like on an English runway trying to get all those things in the air.
Oh, man. And again, here, let me get a close-up. That's a ball turret that's actually extended. The B-24s was sucked up.
Yeah, the 17 could not retract its turret. There was only one B-17 that could. That was the YB-40. It was the only one with a retractable ball turret.
Now, you guys see the size of this ball turret. Now, remember, the lead ace for ball turrets was 6'4". Yeah, cram your big ass in there. There's the clamshell bomber doors you were talking about earlier. Oh, man. These have the same kind of turbos that the B-24 had. Huge turbos. Honda guy's like, look at my big 88 millimeter, man. Yeah, well, go fuck yourself. I have a 255 millimeter. And these were turbocharged and supercharged.
Yep, watch yourself. She's
marking her territory.
She is.
I'm going to try and get the camera up there. These were 14 piston radial engines, right?
Yep.
Hey, look, it's got headlights and taillights.
They also did a late war version of this. Well, actually, it was an early war experimentation. They were worried about because so many aircraft were using the same engines. They came up with the idea of fitting this with the same engines that are fitted to a P-51 called the YB-38. And it worked great. Freaking aircraft picked up 10 miles an hour in speed. The aircraft looked fantastic. But it caught fire on its fourth flight. The crew had to bail out. The prototype was destroyed. They didn't go any further with the project.
Obviously. Now, we got a bit of a walk over to the next one. That's the B-25, right?
Yes. That was built by Mitchell. Mitchell and North American Aircraft. This is the same kind of aircraft that was used by General Doolittle to bomb Japan. This here is a late war B-25. It's missing its top turret, which is, top turrets are very hard to find nowadays. In fact, a lot of your World War II warbirds that have top turrets, it's either a fabrication or it's just a dummy put up there.
So you're saying this is the same type of plane that Boxcar was?
No, Boxcar was a B-29.
Okay.
These were the aircraft that flew off the USS Hornet to attack Japan. They also use these for low-level attacks against Japanese cargo ships, freighters, warships, things like that. So
and it's got the Stinger.
yeah, it's got a Stinger style turret. It's not a true turret per se. It's basically a pintle mount for enclosed type thing.
Yeah.
And during the Doolittle raid, these guns here were taken out for the sake of weight. And they just painted black broomsticks and put them in there to scare off the Japanese. The only turret that actually had any guns was the top turret. These waist guns were taken out.
Those are 50 cals as well.
Yeah, the standard armament for most World War II aircraft was 50 cals. They found the 30 cals early in the war just did not have enough punch to stop an aircraft.
Now, you were telling me earlier that is not a run flat system, but it is.
They didn't call it as much at the time. The idea behind it was to just keep if this tire was damaged in flight from flak or something like that, that the tire would still stay aired up. Because bad time to find out you have a flats when you're landing on a dirt runway on Midway or the Philippines or in England somewhere.
Yeah.
The Germans used B-17s and B-24s they captured They have a documented case of them capturing a B-25 in North Africa, but there's no documented case of it ever actually going anywhere. Because most B-17s and B-24s that were captured weren't flyable. Mainly from either lack of propellers, their spine got broke, because the ball turrets would break the spines of the aircraft when they land when the turret was out.
See if I can't get another close-up shot of the engine. This one's a little bit closer to the ground. Now, instead of a quad engine, this is a twin engine.
Yes, this has 2 radial engines. I don't remember off the top of my head the ones that were in here. They're not the same as the ones that are in the 24, but they're similar. They look like similar aircraft, but these are 2 very, very different aircraft.
This one's got 10 Japanese kills to her name.
Yep. This one was built in '44. If you look up here, you can see it shows U.S. Army model B-25J. Okay, J's the actual model, Block 15, which means there's some modification specific to that model. And then KC, Kansas City.
Nice.
Serial number, Army Air Force, year 44, plane 28,932. Shows it was 10 Japanese aircraft planes, 1 cargo ship sunk.
And this has dual 50 cals sticking out of the front end.
In this case, yes. They're both standard production. However, there was later ones that were built that would actually have machine guns mounted on the sides as well, or they had an option where there was no bombardier. The bombs were released by the pilot. This was replaced with a pack of either 650 cals or a 75mm cannon was put in this. That was operated by the crew to punch really big holes in anything they wanted to.
Just in case you needed that extra, go fuck yourself.
Yes, and it would when they would fire, some of the more heavily armed ones, when they let loose with all their firepower, the plane would slow down 20 miles an hour.
I don't know if you guys can see that, but the gunner's chair literally sits on 2 ammo cans.
Yep. Yep. Whole new meaning to hot seat. They did use a variety of rounds, armor piercing, things like that. They rarely actually use tracers because they pretty much, these things would come in so low. I mean, like if you look over there, you can see a 747. They would actually come in lower than the top of the tail fin to attack Japanese targets.
Talk about cutting the grass.
Some of them would. Like the P-51s and things like that, they'd come in so low, they'd come back, the props would be stained green from grass and trees and anything else they didn't have to do.
Okay, just to give a little insight, there's the bottom of the plane. There's the bottom of the prop. What's that, about 3 feet?
Yeah.
So these guys were coming in at most, what, 40 inches off the ground?
Well, the bottom of this prop, Jake, comes to below your knee.
Yeah. So, I mean, these guys are coming within inches of the ground.
At 300 miles an hour.
At 300 miles an hour. The only reason that the planes didn't fly faster is because the pilot's testicles weighed it down. That's got to be the only reason that didn't happen.
These could carry up to 1,000 pounds of bombs, but they didn't fly very far when they did.
All right, so our last plane of the day, you said, is a very unique Mustang because it's in...
This is a P-51D modified as a 2-seater. Now, most of the P-51s you see nowadays, they're painted to look like famous aircraft, but they're not actually that aircraft.
Yeah.
This aircraft is still bearing its original markings it had when it was a Air National Guard fighter plane for West Virginia. These planes are powered by a Merlin engine. Originally, the P-51 was not a big success because they used a different engine called an Allison, and they were very limited on power. Well, they decided to try out a new engine, and it was a completely different machine.
Now, the engine in this, is it a V12 or is it an inline 6? Because it has exhaust on both sides.
It's a V12.
So you've got a V12 engine sitting behind that prop on this thing.
Yep.
And this whole plane weighs what? 1,000 pounds?
Oh no, it weighs, it's about a 2 to 3 ton aircraft. Its machine guns have been fared over. That's where those bumps are on the wings. That's where machine guns used to go. Standard armament would be 650 cal machine guns.
So you got, plane was known as Toll House Nuts.
The Germans also operated almost an entire squadron of these for training. So it was basically their version of Top Gun. You had a squadron of captured aircraft that would be used to train your own pilots.
Yeah. And this is in Navy markings, correct?
No, that's Air Force.
That's Air Force?
Yep, that's 1950s Air Force.
Yeah. Charleston, West Virginia National Guard. Produced in 1944.
Yep.
Plane 84,655.
Yep.
And again, these were designed for very small people, because as much as I'd love to take a flight in this, and they do that here, if you come down, you can pay a certain amount of money and they will take you up in the air with these planes. But I don't think there's a shoehorn and enough Crisco in the world to get my big ass in that tiny cockpit.
Well, let's put it this way. To go for a flight in this is $2,300 for a half hour. Either one, that's $400 to B25, and the 17 and the 24 are $450. I don't know about you. If I had the extra $50, I'm flying in one of the big boys.
Yeah, me too. But, you know, for $2,300, the pilot that's taking you up in this has got to be an ace, and he's going to be doing some wacky shit with you in the co-pilot seat. Now, did the Mustangs ever escort the bombers?
Oh yeah, they escorted them all. They escorted them. See, up until 1943, we used a plane called the P-47 Thunderbolt. The problem with the Thunderbolt, known as the Jug, even though it was a big, heavy, I mean, this guy was a badass of a plane, it was short-ranged. It couldn't go all the way to Berlin. It couldn't go all the way to Japan, things like that. So that's where the idea behind the P-51 came from. The P-51, with fuel tank, drop tanks, could actually go all the way to Berlin and back. And once these started showing up in numbers, even the Germans, Luftwaffe commander Hermann Göring figured that, as he said during the Nuremberg trials, he knew the gig was up then, because these would go out and escort the bombers, protect them. The thing is that once the bombers committed to the bombing run, the fighters would have to stay away because, well, I don't know about you, I wouldn't be flying willingly into if I have nothing to offer to hurt the Germans.
Yeah.
And the flak, you talk to most of the crew members that went through that, and flak was always the worst, because fighter planes you can shoot back at.
Yeah.
Flak, you couldn't do anything with.
And there are groups actually trying to stop these planes from flying because they produce a message of hate.
That's what they claim. It reminds the people of hate. It glorifies war, things like that.
You see, in my opinion, and many people may not agree with me on this, but World War II was the last war fought with any form of honor.
Oh, there's documented case of a B-17 that was very badly damaged. I mean, by all rights, shouldn't have stayed in the air. And the German pilot that was trying to shoot them down realized there was nothing more they could do. He escorted them to the English Channel and then let them go.
Yeah, Sabaton actually has a song about that called No Bullets Fly.
Yeah. And after the war, those pilots met and became friends.
Yeah. Because at the end of the day, I mean, yeah, at the end of the day, soldiers have their orders, but, you know, everybody knew that these were just other men.
Yeah.
You know, they were just as scared and just wanted to go home just like everybody else.
But it was also a code you did not break. You broke that code, your squadron was targeted.
Yeah.
You know, like I told Jake earlier, there was a 24 squadron known as the Cottontails. B-24's landing gear designed on hydraulics, so they'll drop automatically. Well, B-24's hydraulics dropped the landing gear. Well, in air combat, if you drop your landing gear, you're saying you surrender. The 24's crew didn't know their landing gear had dropped. It started shooting at Germans that were flying in formation. After that, well, that squadron got targeted. In fact, so badly that Cottontails had to be disbanded.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's all I got for today. So, hopefully you learned a little something. But I will catch y'all on the flip side.